What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Ghosts in the Night, a hauntings and paranormal podcast. I'm your host, Phil Sams. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out episode 41. Now, today we have a fascinating conversation. I spoke recently to a demonologist slash exorcist, and that is Reverend L.J. Connell. We talked for about an hour and a half. This episode is pretty much the first 31 minutes or so of the conversation. The rest of the conversation will be in later episodes to come. Pretty much what we talk about in this portion of the interview is how to identify demonic activity and also how to protect yourself, worst case scenario. So you're definitely going to want to check out my conversation with him. Let's go ahead and get the podcast started. Ghost in the Night with Phil Sams. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Ghost in the Night. Now, if you've listened to me, you know that I have been planning and have even started doing a series of podcasts devoted to the topic of demons and demonology. And today is the second episode, essentially, and I scheduled an interview with Reverend L.J. Connell. Reverend, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Now, you are Reverend of, I don't know exactly which denomination. I believe you're non-denominational, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And you have vast experience in demonology. You would categorize yourself, or you definitely are, a demonologist.
Yes, I would say that.
Kind of go into exactly what got you to this point, and because demonology is a demonologist is kind of one of those things where you're not going to find it at any university, but you know there are a number of people, especially in the internet world, that think they're or claim to be a demonologist. What actually drew you to this area of expertise, and what did you actually have to do to, or what? How do you actually become a demonologist? Is basically what I'm trying to get at in a really long way.
Sure. No worries. Mostly demonologists are self-proclaimed. It's just basically the study of the demonic. But there are a number of legitimate authors out there that have some good works, write some good stuff. Just you study those. There are some schools that have a course on the demonic, angelology, and really there's not that much out there that's written.
Right.
You know, most of it is, not most, I shouldn't say most, there's a lot of it that is just experience based.
Right. Things
that they've run into in the field and such.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I started, when I was young, I saw things that I couldn't explain. I was actually, a line of angels just lined up next to the road.
Right.
And, people think I'm crazy, and I know what I saw in my right mind, et cetera, et cetera. But since then, I think I was about 5. And since then, things would happen to me quite frequently. See things, experience things. And it wasn't ghostly. It was either demonic or angelic, one of the two.
Right.
I've never actually seen a ghost. Never, nothing like that. And, through my life, I became a Christian when I was really young. Gave my life to Christ. And I studied just Scripture. That's the best preparation for anything. You got to know your foundation.
Yeah, you got to know what you're talking about, and the only way to do that is to study and learn it.
Yeah. Be founded in what your theology, your belief, what you know. I grew up in the Protestant church, charismatic. I don't know. It was a charismatic Church of God. Was the first one I ever went to.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a different relationship, I think, with God than people in the congregation did. It was just different. It was more parental. So
Right.
I kind of grew up alone.
Mm-hmm.
And he was my true guide in life. I'd read or go to pastors, etc. But later in life, these things got more and more intense, these attacks. And then at one point, I had enough, and I knew the authority that I had, so I just took it.
Right.
Go away. And that's when everything changed. And started studying more. What are these things? Where did they come from? Why is the Protestant Bible so silent on some of this stuff? What can you glean from this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And there are a number of works out there from early church fathers, from the 2nd century, that talk to a lot of this. They go into it in a little more detail.
Mm-hmm. Most
of it is learned about, well, what can we guess that they are, because we know that angels do this.
Right.
So it's also in from exorcists, the writings of prominent exorcists. Many have books, of course.
Right.
Those are some good works because they have direct interaction with the demonic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let me stop you right there real quick. Now,
That's fine.
From what you've kind of just explained, you're describing. To my listeners and my followers, what you just said, you're kind of explain or described of. It seems like you actually might have some psychic or mediumship type abilities. Now, I know that's real iffy in just about every religion. They don't really buy into that a person can communicate per se with spirits unless you're dealing with God Almighty. What is your view on that? I mean, that is kind of what you explained, but how do you view it?
I wouldn't call it that.
Okay.
There are gifts,
right?
The spiritual gifts that are given, and that we have. I know some do call it medium, psychic medium, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But I think it's all in what you are communicating with and how you go about doing it, and how it happens.
Right.
Now, I am not to ever use a word or divine or seek out interaction with anything spiritual. Like other than praying, I know that Heavenly Father, Holy Spirit, and Christ, I can expect interaction from them, but anything else would be a surprise. Right.
And that's understandable. Yeah. I mean, because and that is
otherwise it's witchcraft or divination.
Exactly. When I started, when I started this series of podcasts, which I just aired my first episode last Thursday, I was I'm not an overly religious person, but I'm not an atheist by any stretch of imagination. In our pre-discussion, I explained my philosophies essentially on religion.
Sure.
But I do have faith. I do believe in the spiritual realm, as in angels, demons, God. I believe in a creator. Whatever you want to call him, that's fine. I'm not going to judge anybody by what they call the gods that they worship. Or
sure.
we can go in that. This is a whole series of episodes in itself. But
sure.
I wanted to focus the series of podcast episodes. Kind of. I don't want to use the word take religion out of it, but I wanted to look at it from the view of to where everybody would understand it. And the more I started researching it, and I was like, oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. I mean, you can't, because
it's inherently theological.
Exactly. And so, I quickly abandoned that out, but I still wanted to kind of include the non-believing people, or the people without faith. Sure. So, because they are just as likely to have a demonic problem than somebody that is of faith. But
yeah, you better believe it. Probably even more so.
But I did, and speaking of that, I'm kind of getting a little bit off topic, but I wanted to get your opinion. I was, I'm continually doing my research on this topic because you can probably spend a lifetime and never be a complete and total master of it. But I did come across something in my readings that the person kind of expressed through the writing that, how can I say this? An atheist is less likely to have a demonic attack or attachment or possession than a true believer. And this is because a demon's main purpose as a servant to the devil or Satan or whatever you want to call that entity is to corrupt the soul or the spirit of the living and bring them to hell, set them on the path to damnation. And this person basically was stating that if the non-believer doesn't have near the interaction or possibility of being possessed or having these activities, because they're already there. The only true people that are having these encounters or this problem essentially is the true believers, because that is who the demons have to work on. They've already got the non-believers. They don't have to waste their time, to kind of put it lightly or dumb it down a little bit. They don't have to waste their time on the atheists or the true sinners that don't put a lot of faith in a higher power. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I understand as far as overt occurrences, that an atheist might have.
Right.
I don't think they would as likely see them. One of the biggest lies that the devil sells is that he doesn't exist at all.
Right.
And he'll maintain that until the end, until he can't anymore. So, if the true atheist, one that does not believe, yes, he's already fooled.
Right.
And is basically a puppet and can be used at any time, anywhere. Faith doesn't even really have to come into it so much.
Okay.
The believers, yes, they're likely more apt to have a overt encounter, an actual fight, something spooky, scary. It's theatrics.
Right.
They use these types of manifestations just to spook a person, bring fear.
Exactly.
Make it fearful. Back down, run away, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Did I answer the question?
Exactly. I mean, I just wanted what this person, I wish I can't even remember who it was now or exactly what website I saw it on, or I can't even remember where I saw this. No, I was looking at the computer. It made sense and it was rational. I mean, it does make sense in that term, in the way they worded it. A person who doesn't believe in anything is going, according to the teachings, is going to burn anyway. So why would they waste their time on, somebody like that when they could? Their job is to bring the rest of the people, the true believers. So I just wanted to get your opinion because you know so much more than I do on the topic. Now, in the first episode I talked about was basically based on what is a demon. Now, I'm going to kind of mention or kind of recap it with what I have believed and what I have found, but I wanted you to, if I missed anything or if there's something you wanted to add to it, lend your expertise to what is a demon. Now, according to my understanding, a demon is an evil spirit, but the difference, this is where a lot of religions and I probably part ways a little bit. I do believe in the spirit world. I do believe in ghosts, which you said you've never seen a ghost, but, and a lot of religious people do not believe in ghosts. And there's even some demonologists that believe everything that paranormal investigators or anybody that's experiencing activities, it's a demon. Ghosts don't exist because when a human or a person dies, their spirit either goes one of two places, and that's it. Everything that we are encountering in the paranormal world when it comes to ghosts is actually just a demon. Now, my personal belief, I don't personally believe that, but I don't degrade anybody that does believe that. Everybody has the right to their own opinion. But to get to the point of what is a demon, so I wanted to separate that A demon is a non-living. It was never a living person. It is an evil entity that never took human, or never spent time, or never was an actual human. Basically, in layman's term, there's angels, there's demons, and demons are essentially the angels that fell with Satan when he was cast out. Is that pretty much the gist of it, or is there something that can be added to that?
I think that's about the gist of it.
Okay. So I'm not...
They're fallen angels.
Right. Okay. Now, demons... Now, we talked a little bit of this a few days ago when we first talked. Demons, they never had a human body, but they can take human form or take other forms of, animals. I know there's been a lot of reports and people, black cats, black dogs, pigs, they can take form and they can manifest themselves to the living.
Sure, in my experience. Yeah.
Now, because this is going to lead into really one of the main talking points I wanted to get with you on is how does a person that is experiencing some sort of paranormal activity know that they are dealing with or could possibly be interacting with a demon, or how do they know that they might have a demonic infestation? Are there certain signs, or...
There's a number of signs that can happen, or there might be none at all.
Right.
And it depends on what you do to provoke it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, trust your gut, I would say. If you feel like you want to run away and you are outright scared, there's something going on.
Right.
Aside from the normal, hey, I'm in the dark type of scared.
Right, exactly.
Your normal scared feeling. Right. There's a horrible, it's worse than you've ever felt before.
Right.
As far as, signs, there could be smells like rotten meat,
mm-hmm.
Sulfur, visual signs, I don't know, kind of the extreme bleeding stuff.
Right. Now, I've also heard, I've also heard naturally, you might see blood dripping from the wall or something to that effect, but I've also heard any kind of, for lack of a better word, I guess, oozing from an object or the wall or the window, even puddles of something on the floor, puddles of water, or which, can be oftentimes easily explained. But I've also heard that anytime you see any kind of liquid or oily type substance, essentially coming from somewhere it shouldn't be coming from, that is also a sign.
I would say it is.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, most of my listeners probably would, the good old Zach Baggins from his little movie, The Demon House, with the hole on the blinds, the oil or whatever, some kind of substance. That's just a kind of reference to my listeners, because they would know that, because they all love him, which we'll get into. We don't have to get into, but I've got into plenty about it. But that is always one sign. Now, if you have a puddle of water by the sink, that could, or by a dog's bowl, it's not a demon. The dog was just messing.
Right.
Okay. Now, is there...
Yeah, I think there's natural explanations for a lot of this stuff.
Exactly. Because, I firmly believe that, I'm coming up from my, like I just said, from my point, or my vantage point is, I don't believe everything. I believe there is a difference. I believe we can have interactions with a regular spirit. Now, whether these of the dead, essentially, for just to kind of separate it. So I don't believe a lot of what in today's society is being called demons or demonic activity. I don't think it is. I think we are, this society in today's whole, with the culture of the paranormal reality shows, there's a demon uprising, essentially, just in their, the way people think of it. Everybody's a demon. Because if you watch some of these paranormal shows, I mean, every week somebody's getting possessed.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it's nearly, I think it's more the exception, not the rule. Not to say it doesn't happen. It definitely happens. But I think some of it can be explained a little bit, and people jump the gun a little bit on it.
Yeah, you better believe it.
Without,
and
right.
It's sad to say because, I was just actually talking to my daughter about this. The New Apostolic Reformation, that church, that big movement, it's a heretical movement. It's outright heresy. It really is. That is doctrine of demons right there.
Right.
Is what they believe, and it's widespread. They believe everything is demon possessed.
Right.
If you curse once, you stub your toe and you curse, oh, you got to come in for an exorcism. You're possessed.
Well, that's kind of, this is kind of my, where I separate, or because I'm naturally inquisitive person. I ask a lot of questions, and for me to accept something, you have to explain it to me rationally. Now, if you explain it to me and give me, I'm not your typical American male where I'm dead set in my ways. If you give me a rational explanation or plead your case, and I can be convinced. I'm not perfect. But
so you're an adult.
Yes, but unfortunately there's not a lot of adult males out there today. People dig their heels in. But this is where I kind of separated from religion and faith, essentially. Because it seems like to me, from my bringing my childhood, from going to church with my parents, my grandparents were very religious. My mother's, extremely religious, but she's rational. She accepts that, she doesn't have all the answers. And you can actually have an intelligent conversation with her without, actually, next thing you know, you've got holy water being thrown at you because you're possessed. She will hear you out. I've always had an issue with the spirituality portion of it, because a lot of religions say every time you cuss or anything that you do or we as people do as that is considered bad or against God, it is immediately 100% a demon influencing you. Now, personally, I think that is a lack of responsibility. I preach to my daughters, take personal responsibility in your actions. You have a brain, use it. I do not believe every little mistake that I make, and I make plenty of mistakes on a daily basis, but it's my fault. It's not a demon pushing me in that direction, to where there are some people that if you have one little, I mean, like sin, yes, a demon.
We're naturally inclined to the sinful nature.
Right. Demon didn't cause me to sin. I caused me to sin. I made a conscious decision to do something that I knew wasn't right. And every time I do something, I know if I'm doing something wrong, I know I'm doing something wrong, but I did it anyway. Now, I do not think that's a demon that caused me to do that or whatever. Now, if you say, for instance, if I'm driving on the road and a tree falls on me, now that might be more likely to be a demon, but it could just be a tornado or heavy winds.
Right.
I'm more likely to believe that than I am every conscious bad thing I do is because of a demon. And that's kind of where I kind of pump the brakes a little bit and say, okay, let's just slow down a little bit.
Right. Where I think it gets involved is in habitual disobedience.
Right.
When you're willfully, with all your heart, doing something, either knowing it's wrong or just doing it because you absolutely love it.
Right.
Whole heart and soul is just in that, like murder and rape, and I don't know. I think it will reach the point where the demonic will get involved and attach themselves and influence your decisions even more. Maybe push you even further.
Right.
They might even take control of you at one point. I don't know. Depends on your will.
Right.
But like you, I mean, I'm a natural skeptic. I am skeptic to the core. I mean, for a man of faith, it seems a little counterintuitive, but I am a skeptic.
Right.
I don't jump to the conclusions that everything is evil,
right,
demonic, or whatever. Like, a rational,
right,
good philosophical argument backed up with some theology. Sure.
Right. Yeah.
I
mean, that is, I think that is a problem in today's society, that people immediately, there's such a fast food type mentality. You immediately jump to the first, your first reaction to something. I mean, just for instance, I'm out of Ohio, And I'm sure you heard about the Cov kids in D.C. with the whole Native American, the chant.
Yeah.
Cov is just 30 minutes south of me. You know,
Oh, wow.
and everybody jumped. I don't know the whole story, but there's 2 sides and 3 sides to every story, and everybody jumped and was wanting to crucify those kids when, you know, some of them were probably were not, you know, they needed some blame, but there was other sides to that story, but everybody took the first soundbite or the first video clip and based their opinion on that instead of looking at the whole picture. They looked at one piece. They looked at one piece of the puzzle, but didn't look at the whole picture. And you can't. And that's true in religion. That's true in life. That's true in the paranormal. You need to look at the whole picture and just not one little sliver of one little piece of a puzzle. And that is generally what people do in today's culture and today's society.
Yeah. And a lot of what we know about the paranormal is because of commonalities between cases and occurrences and experiences. You know, it's commonalities. What's happening most.
Right.
Yeah, you can't jump to a conclusion that the first thing you see is whatever.
Right.
You know, it's preternatural.
You know, and I'm not 100% sure that ghosts are real. I believe, you know, in the spirit world, but I don't have all the answers. I'm not,
right.
You know, I don't know is probably, I've said it a million times on the podcast and in my natural life, I say it all the time. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I'm looking for answers, and I probably will never find the answers until that day comes when I'm no longer walking this earth. But I don't have all the answers. And you know, I go out on a lot of investigations. I've had a lot of experiences that I can't explain. And I've had experiences my entire life, which, you know, naturally I'm not uncommon. Most people that are paranormal investigators or that are interested in the paranormal have had encounters or have been in situations they don't understand and they're looking for answers. But I'm not immediately, every investigation that I go to, if I experience something, I don't immediately jump to a ghost even. You know, you have to look for a rational explanation because we don't have all the answers.
Sure. You know, and that draws a lot of people to ghost hunting. Right. As a matter of fact, is this seeking out that secret stuff, the unknown. We're curious. People are curious. You know.
Yeah.
I think God calls us to be philosophers, basically, and love, pursue wisdom.
Right.
And that's what we do. We just constantly seek. That gets in trouble sometimes.
Right, because a lot of people they're seeking one answer, but they're not willing to look at the whole one answer. Looking for one answer, you will find 1,000 other questions.
Right.
But they focus in on one thing, and it's just kind of weird. So you are an exorcist, correct? For lack of a better term. And I definitely want to hit that topic here very soon. But like we talked about identifying a demon, how can a person go about protecting themselves, either a paranormal investigator or before going on an investigation, if there might be some sort of demonic activity? Because I'm a firm believer that, you know, it's better to be safe than sorry. Or somebody that is spiritual and they just want to protect themselves or protect their home or protect their children from this activity. Because I know I've always had experiences, but when I first decided to actually go out and search for answers, I was naturally concerned. My first thought was, okay, I can handle anything that's thrown at me. I just don't want to bring anything home to my family.
Right.
You know, I can handle
it. Happens.
I can deal with a demonic possession myself, but I don't want my kids to have to deal with it. What can people or anybody do to prohibit or give themselves a better chance of not even going through that?
Well, I would have to say the best defense is a good offense. Prepare yourself beforehand. And of course, I come from the side of Christian theology, right?
Yes.
And in my experience, religious objects blessed objects tend to add some credence or bring some weight into the house. They naturally are kind of pushed away from all that stuff, but it
Right.
doesn't drive them away.
Right.
I think ultimately prayer, readying yourself beforehand, rejecting all things that would be, I don't know, some people call it negative, evil, oppressive. Don't accept that into your life. Don't accept it as, or don't welcome that into your house or into your life.
Right.
Now, I believe, it's dangerous in my experience, it's dangerous for unbelievers to mess around with this stuff. No matter what they do in the beginning, there's a really good chance they're going to bring it home.
Right.
It's the dangers of the whole playing around with it.
Right.
And unless you know what you're dealing with, you're familiar with what you're dealing with, stay away from it.
Right.
So educate yourself.
Right.
Get to know what you could come up against.
Right.
There's prayer. There's just basic prayer. Lord, protect me. You could wear a St. Benedict's medal, St. Michael's medallion. Some people think the miraculous medal. There's another saint. It just went blank. Mine just went blank.
It happens to me all the time.
I'll do it later. Sure, but those aren't magic charms.
Right.
There has to be faith behind
Right.
what you're wearing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's no such thing as a magic amulet or a charm or whatever.
Right. I recently came across this new podcast app because I'm an avid podcast listener just like you. And if you like Ghost of the Night, I know you're going to love this app, and it's called Podcoin. Now, the really great thing about Podcoin, if you're listening to the podcast, you might as well get something out of it, and they will actually pay you to listen to podcasts. You're doing it anyway, you might as well go ahead and get something out of it. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon, Starbucks, Target, or if you're a great person, like I know you are, you can even donate the Podcoins to charity. I mean, how cool is that? The more you listen, the more you will earn. So, here's what you do. You download the app for your iPhone or Android, and I even have a special code for you. Simply use the code GHOST, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. So go ahead and download the Podcoin app and use the promo code GHOST, like I just told you, and get 300 Podcoin and listen to all your favorite podcasts. I have switched, and I am completely just using Podcoin for all my podcast listening needs. So head on over and try it out and let me know what you think. All right, that was my first part of my conversation with Reverend Connell. The rest of it is really great, and we kind of move into things such as exorcism, but I think he really hit on some valuable points that you definitely need to take away from this podcast, and that is, to identify any kind of demonic activity, you have to trust your gut. And if you feel something's off, you definitely have to go with your gut. Now, when you get things such as the smell, the putrid smell, the sulfur, or any kind of bad odor along with that gut feeling, or any kind of activity that might be going on, whether it be full body apparition or something along the lines of, a voice or EVPs or knocking, you need to take seriously and maybe talk to somebody in your area. And also, when it comes to protection, he really hit on something that I stress a lot, and that is strength. Now, strength and faith are the two best ways to protect yourself in any of those situations, but it doesn't matter if you have whatever you believe. It doesn't matter. Just draw strength on that, and you will be in much better position to handle anything that comes across or enters your home or attacks you in that way. And I can't preach that enough. The stronger you are, the better off your odds of coming out this other side of this and being successful. Now, the rest of this conversation I had with him, I will definitely play probably next week we will touch on some other stuff. I think we're going to move into the realm of the exorcism portion of it, because that's fascinating to me. I've never actually talked to a demonologist that was an exorcist. I've never seen an exorcism performed. I pretty much, as much as I do about it. I've been doing a little bit of research, but we're going to learn together. So thank you once again for checking out the podcast. If you want to get a hold of me, you can do that at gitnpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at night_ghost. We're also on Instagram at ghost_night_podcast. We're on Twitter as well at Ghost of the Night. Those are probably the best ways to get a hold of me. Twitter, I do a lot of updates on the show, so if something's going on with the show, that is probably the best place to find out what's going on. Now, Reverend Connell can be found on Twitter at TC Outlet. He is also doing a research study where he's looking for actual documented evidence of paranormal phenomena. If you want to help out, you can reach out at him on Twitter, or you can visit his website, hauntedsoul.org. So if you have an experience and you want to help him out and be part of his little case study there, be sure to reach out with him, or you can let me know. Reach out to me and I will pass the message on to him. If you got something, let us know. Next week, we will talk about exorcism, and we will see you then. Take care, everybody.